Okay, hello everyone. Unit 2, lesson 6. I'm just trying to make a voice because I'm bored myself. Revision. It's box number 2 here. We're going to focus on asking questions only. You really need to focus with me today about this part because it's just not a piece of cake to work on. Now, look at the form of the verb in two kinds of questions, which is A and B. Okay, first one. Mr. El Ghamdi teaches someone. Now, there is the other one in B where someone teaches these pupils. Let's just work on something here. Ta-da-dum. Okay, we got a lot of space here we need to work on. Okay, now with A, and there is B. Try just to focus. Now, the first one is like, let's say, Mr. X, okay, teaches someone, but the other one, which is B, oopsie, I don't know what's happening here. Okay, I just need you to be patient with me today, which is something you're really good at because you've been so before. Okay, now here I'm going to say someone teaches the pupils or the students, which is just pretty much the same. Now, if I want to make a question about about A and about B, it's just very easy in terms of like asking, using the same question word. If I want to use who, for example, for the first one, I'm not going to say uh, who teaches someone, but I'm going to ask about who is this person. This one, Mr. X, okay? So I'm going to ask about Mr. X. You need to focus on what you want to ask about. Well, in our case, this is a subject. Then there is a verb. And then it is an object. Okay? So you're going to ask about a subject here. So you say, who then does Mr. X teaches? Oh, sorry, teach. What we're going to focus on here are two things you can say. We're going to focus on saying that who does in teach is what the verb like teaches compiles or consists of. You're just separating it into two parts in a question, and you're focusing on who as the object. I'm sorry, I just had a cup of coffee. This is my second one today. Just gonna go crazy. You really need to be patient. Okay. Now, but when I'm going to ask about someone teaches the students, and I'm focusing about by saying like who teaches the students. Well, actually, I the answer I'm looking for is someone. Now, someone in the second sentence is different in position than the first one because someone here is the subject and you're gonna say that this is the verb and this one is the object. So if you really want to focus on this at this point, let's see what we can do. Okay, so actually what's happening here is we're focusing on the subject as someone. So if you want to ask about someone or ask about the subject using who, you're going to simply keep the same structure of the sentence without changing anything at all. Uh, see? But if you're going to ask about the object, try to kind of put it in a different way, what's going to happen is that you're going to change the verb into two parts, still include the subject and just take off the object. So, okay. Now, that's what the whole part 2 is all about when you make questions. So this is what we're going to do when using who as a word. But if we want to use what, which is a different question word, I'd say like someone medicines look like sweets. You can say, okay, this medicine looks like sweet. Okay, let's maybe use the same sentence here. Try to put it in a different way. You can say, I'm gonna ask about the subject in this one. So I'm in the second one. So I'm gonna say what, and then does, or what is taught to the students. Okay, I wasn't successful with a stupid or the hesitant student role today. Now, if I'm going to use what here, it's kind of a bit different and difficult at the same time, because I'm going to be using a different kind of form. Although, as you can see here, I just kept the same structure order, but that's not the point, because I'm going to change the form of the verb if I'm going to use what, for two reasons. The first reason is I'm going to use it in a past participle, in a passive form, because I don't know what is going to be taught, because the sentence say someone teaches the student. Okay, Mr. X is teaching the student or teaches the student. So the point is that I don't know who is Mr. X, and I don't know what Mr. X is going to teach the student. So I'm talking about what's going to happen next, because here it can be like someone teaches English to the students. So you see, I really don't know what is going to be taught here, so I'm just kind of trying to guess. But if I'm going to use what as a word, a question word to someone here, to the first sentence, I'm going to say, well, what does Mr. X teach? So I'm going to simply focus on okay, so I'm actually focusing on here. I'm actually focusing on what does he teach? We don't know. We could be saying Mr. X teaches someone English, so I can say Mr. X teaches someone English, or something which I don't know about. So maybe I'm keeping the same structure here, but I'm actually changing the structure of the third part of the sentence. So you really need to pay attention to this thing here. Okay, now if I'm going to focus again on this part here in the book where it says there are two examples, the bus brings X. If I'm going to ask about X, they say, who does the bus bring? This is very much similar to the part we're going to talk about here. Who does Mr. X teach? Who does the bus bring? So you're going to put the verb at the end of the question at the third part. Let's presume here we got part 1 plus part 2, and then you're going to say this is part 3 of the sentence or the question. So here we're going to actually focus on using the verb at the end, like bring and teach, and then there is who at the beginning, the first part, and then does the bus, does Mr. X, does whatsoever. Uh, and then if I'm going to use what, for example, he teaches X. What does he teach? You say, what does Mr. X teach? He teaches English, for example, you know. With part B, it goes X teaches English. You see, there is somebody teaches the students. Again, let's just put them into like 3 parts. We're just trying to separate things to make them look easier. Always think of separating things to make them easier working in blocks. Okay, so as you can see here, someone teaches the students. I'm going to ask using who, like here, X teaches English. Who teaches English? You're just keeping the sentence the same. Teaches English, teaches English. Here, teaches, that's the same thing. Who teaches the students? Someone teaches the students. Now, if we're going to talk about what is taught to the students, what brings the pupil here? X brings the pupil. What brings the pupil? What is taught to the students? Well, taught here is kind of a problematic to example that I'm focusing on here. So I'm gonna try to detour the work and just get back to another one. Let's say electricity hurts X. Hmm, I'm gonna try to put it out here for you again. Okay, just another example. Okay, he has started electricity hurts X. Kind of tough here. You know, the separation is taking me some time. But never mind, it's absolutely important. So we're gonna take some time for it. This video is really important because it does remind a lot of students a lot of things that they've forgotten before, forgotten about, or so on. Okay. So electricity hurts, and there you go. You're going to say electricity hurts X. Like we say, who is hurt by electricity? And you want to separate that. We say, who is hurt by electricity? What, and then does electricity hurt? Now, as you can notice here, does hurt is the verb and electricity is the last part. Now, another sentence could be he has started learning, and you can say who has started learning, and you can say, oh oops, I said earning. And there's, you can say, what has he started learning? Okay, now I want you to learn the rule very well. You could say he has started, and then you can follow on to number 3, learning. Now, who has started learning, and what has he started learning? Oopsie, they're not full stops. Big mistake, Mrs. Teacher, Mr. Teacher, whatever. Okay, so what I'm focusing here is telling you about the tense It's just the same, but we're just changing the order. Has started as just the same verb, kept. We don't really need to change much about it. Let me give you another example here with another sentence. They wrote to X, and you say, who wrote to X? What was written to X? Well, if I want to separate this one, they wrote to X, okay, and who wrote to X, and what was written to X, okay? Now you can notice here that the verb has changed when we're talking about was written, and because this is a passive form, passive, okay? So it means you don't use the same tense, the normal one, and you know about the passive, you've learned it before. We'll review it later on at some other time. Let's get another sentence here saying last week he did X. He did, okay. Last week he did X, okay. He did X. Oh, God knows what did he do. He did, and then there is X, and okay. What did he do last week? He did X. You can say what? Who did X last week? I'm sorry. Who did X last week? We're actually going to change the position of last week, and we say who did X last week. We're just going to keep it as the last part of the sentence. And if I want to ask about what did he do last week? What did X do? I'm sorry. What did X do last week? Okay, now let's try to get to another sentence here. He starts should be fun. X should be fun. Okay. This is part B, like the second column. As you can see, X should be fun. This is the verb. You see, when you actually organize the parts of the sentence, it does help you to see things clearly or in better perspective. Like, and if you can color it, that would be perfect too. X should be fun. What should be fun? And who should be fun? What should be fun to X, okay? And who should be fun? Or just reverse the order here, but it's okay, no problem. Now X is, we can say X can scold you. X can scold you. I know what's happening here. Okay, and you say who? Can scold. Oh, by the way, scold with sorry, with O has completely different meaning. What can scold X? Okay, now let's see the other one. We're focusing on X here. X has been to see a doctor. X has been to see A doctor. Okay. Okay. Sorry for that. So la la la. Okay. Who has been to see a doctor, and what has X been for to see? Okay. Uh, we're gonna have to just give you some extra spaces so you can notice the difference here. I'm really careful about the spaces. They just bug me. They're not okay. It makes me crazy sometimes, and I do waste my time on it. I admit. Okay, anyway. But it does give me a better perspective of how I see things. So again, if you want to ask about subject at the beginning of the sentence, which is Mr. Something has done this, the person who has done the verb, the action, which is the subject, then you're gonna say who and just keep the rest of the sentence the same. But if you're asking about the object, like for example, they wrote to X, you're going to still use who, oopsie, and you're gonna change the verb. It's some sentences. For example, electricity hurts X. Who is hurt by electricity? And there is another example here. Mr. X teaches someone. Who does Mr. X teach? As you can see, the form of the verb changes when you're asking about an object, but when you're asking about the subject, it just stays the same. Now, if I'm going to say here, I'm going to use what? I'm going to focus on changing the verb for so sure. For example, Mr. X teaches someone. What does Mr. X teach? You're going to change the form into a different verb because you're going to ask about the object here. Let me give you another example. X can scold you. What can scold X? You see, you're just bringing the subject in the form, in the position of an object. You're going to keep the verb the same and just change what is in terms of object. Or instead of an object. But if you're actually trying to you're trying to ask about the subject with what, you're going to say what is taught to the students when you say someone teaches the students. So you're asking about something that's not available or so what you cannot find, and that's what you're going to focus on. Good luck. So sorry for taking a long time, but it was really important.